Welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast, the podcast devoted to the local music scene in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, here's your host, Matthew Ablin.
Hello, and welcome to episode 25 of the Queen City Music Podcast. This episode kicks off the third year of the QCMP, and in the coming months, there are a wide range of guests, so keep on listening. But this month, I'm sitting down with Wes Steenberg from WaterWorks, a rock quintet with a sound all their own, aided by Wes's unique vocal style. The group features Eric Payne on saxophone, Tom Thomas on drums, Brian Scott on bass, Alec Dwyer on guitar, and Wes Steenberg on vocals and guitar. Hey, Wes, thank you for coming on the podcast today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be here in the middle of summer.
All right, so first question. Are you originally from the Charlotte area?
No, I'm actually from Richmond, Virginia originally, and went to South Carolina for school and got kind of the southern bug into me and decided to stick around the Charlotte area after I graduated. So
what brought you to Charlotte? You came down here for school?
Yeah, came down here for school, went back to Richmond for about 2 years, got my master's in accounting, so I'm a bit of a nerd on the other side.
Nice.
And then got a job down here and figured if I didn't leave Richmond then, I would end up stuck there forever. And nothing against that, but I kind of wanted to get out and explore for a little bit.
Yeah, as we were talking before the podcast, I have a friend there who's and there's a kind of little burgeoning music scene happening there.
Yeah, it's got kind of a quirky underculture that a lot of people don't know about because it's not a major city.
Right.
But it's got a cool river that runs right through it, a bunch of rapids, very outdoorsy scene, and VCU's a artsy school, so it's got it's kind of just got a really interesting scene there that a lot of people don't know about.
Not, and because it's not a major metropolitan area.
Right. You hear Austin, Texas, or DC, or New York, or LA, or Chicago, and Atlanta, but Richmond's just kind of stuck in between all that. And
right.
It's a tweener city, but it's got a really interesting scene.
But even some of those other scenes, I mean, you look at it from afar, being in Charlotte, thinking, oh, they've got all this. And if you go there, it might not be as great as what you hear, because I hear things about different scenes, and some of them are pay to play. Mm-hmm. Some of them are the people don't make any money even though they're playing a lot. Yep. They're playing just for tips. So I mean, depends on where you are. I mean, might just be good to be in Charlotte at this time.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you say that, timing of that, because I know people who've done kind of the Nashville thing,
right?
And it's either A, oversaturated, or B, you kind of have to follow the Nashville script to do anything there.
Right.
So you kind of pigeonhole yourself by doing that. And kind of I had a decision point about 2 or 3 years ago where I was like, do I want to stay in Charlotte for a longer period of time? And I was like, you know what, Charlotte's kind of cool because it doesn't have anything yet.
Right.
You can kind of create your own scene here that it doesn't have any preconceived notion or script to it.
Right.
And so being kind of part of that run that's going on now with the music scene has been really fun.
It's a good time. I think it's a good time to be in the Charlotte music scene. There's a lot happening, and it's just starting to kind of pop a little bit more with lots of bands like you guys in WaterWorks.
Yeah. It's and people freaked out because a lot of the music venues were closing about 2 years ago. I think Amos is shut down, Double Door shut down, Tremont Music Hall shut down. Yet a bunch of breweries were opening, and bars started to kind of open up with the idea to having bands or smaller setups as well. So the music didn't really go anywhere. It just kind of morphed and created a new scene.
Yeah. Well, I think the musical, just whatever happens, it'll find its way.
Yeah.
It's not gonna, it's not gonna die. It's a growing city, and with growth comes more people moving here, and with more people moving here is more musicians moving here, and finding their way into those crevices that might not have been.
Yeah.
So what's your musical background, though? You didn't study music in school? You went for accounting, you were saying.
Yeah.
So what's your background?
It's funny. My parents didn't play music. My dad didn't play music. My mom didn't play music. My dad grew up in the Summer of Love era, the 60s or whatever. And my mom is 12 years younger than him. So she got the 70s.
Okay.
Loved the Doors, loved the Stones, listened to it all growing up. But I never really had kind of an instrument thrown in my face growing up or anything. It was never a big part of my upbringing. But in college, I remember I went to a Red Hot Chili Peppers show.
All right.
And you've heard Can't Stop.
Right.
forever on the radio and all these things. And I remember being there watching them play Can't Stop, and all of a sudden everything clicked like, oh my gosh, they're playing a song that I've heard forever and they're right there doing it. That's a real person doing this. So therefore, like, connected in my head, like, if they can do it, I can do it. And so it just kind of spurred from there. And it was about mid-college when I started picking everything up and putting all the musical pieces from learning into it.
So you started real late. I mean, as far as for me.
Yeah. No, almost everyone else in our band is played since they're 5-10 years old, but it's definitely late.
If I look back, well, my original guitar teacher, second guitar teacher, but my main guy, we had a conversation one day because I still keep in touch with him to this day. I was like, well, I started playing guitar at 12, and he goes, no. He goes, you started at 11. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, because I was still at this location when you started, and I didn't leave there until this. So you started. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I should be so much better than I am. I've been playing a year longer.
I missed that whole year of education.
Yeah.
At 11 years old.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, but a lot of the guys I knew, that's when I was a kid, that was kind of it. When everybody started getting the music bug, it was around that age. It started biting everybody. And, all of a sudden I went from like being a baseball nut as a kid to sports. It was like music. It was like, there's this whole new world.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. It kind of hits people at different times. But when it does, it doesn't go away.
So when you got into music, what instrument did you start getting into?
Yeah. Guitar was immediate. I mean, rock and roll was just kind of, it was everywhere to me. It was Doors, Led Zeppelin.
Oh, listen to classic rock.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was classic rock. A band that was cool that you could see that kind of kept me, being able to go to shows that felt very classic rock was Widespread Panic. Was kind of a huge influence and still is. So my buddies would always go to shows in college and post-college seeing them. So
you into I don't want to call him a shredder, but man, Jimmy Herring can play.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's the White Wizard. He tears it up. It's they lost their guitarist back in 2002, I think, and it took him 5 years, I think, to find him. But him filling that void has been fun. He's phenomenal. Yeah,
they do. And my brother is down in Atlanta, and he occasionally does some work at the Fox Theater down there.
Yeah,
and he's always like, "Oh, okay, Widespread Panic is coming," and they do these.
New Year's shows, I think.
Yeah, they do several, and he's like, it's packed all the time. He's like, you should come down one New Year's, and I'll get you in, and we'll check it out. And I'm like, and I never do.
Oh, you should. I would have seen you there.
I should check it out. All right, so you're a guitar player. Do you do anything else when you started getting into it?
Yeah, the songwriting thing was kind of something that came natural. I just liked writing, and that happened long before 21, 22. That was kind of when I was through high school. I just liked writing things. It didn't really matter what.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden I realized that, hey, you can kind of organize it into a specific thought or idea and combine it with a guitar. And it turned into songwriting. I didn't realize it until I was like 24, 25 that, hey, you could write your own songs instead of playing other people's stuff. And it's a really unique experience, songwriting, because there's no script to it.
Right.
The original stuff, you decide what it sounds like. And so can be fearsome for a lot of people, but it can be very freeing for many too.
So when you started getting into playing, you sing in WaterWorks as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What came first? Was it the guitar playing? Or, I mean, everybody does singing in the shower or singing in the car, but what came first? Were you, at some point, were you playing guitar and like, man, this would be so much better if I could sing? Or was that did it come out of necessity?
I think it was a necessity. I hadn't thought about it before, which came first, but it was kind of, I knew I wasn't going to be Jimi Hendrix. I was way too far behind on that train.
Right.
But I guess I felt that I had songwriting that I could bring to the table.
Sure.
And then if I could combine a voice thing to that and bring those three pieces, that's actually something someone could value in a group setting, whereas I couldn't be a lead guitarist. I just haven't put the time in on the guitar. But songwriting, it seems I have had an experience that I didn't know. That I could bring.
Yeah, not everybody has to tear it up. I mean, at the end of the day, what matters is the song.
Right.
And if you're a lead guitar player, how do I put it? Nobody really cares how good your lead is if it doesn't sound good in the song.
Right.
You know,
a million notes, but
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, I could play as well as Yngwie Malmsteen and shred up the guitar. But if it's not in a good song, everybody's just going to go, yeah, you play guitar really well.
Yeah.
You know, so same thing with gear. It's like you can have all this fancy gear, but if the song isn't good, nobody cares what kind of gear you're playing.
Yeah. So, we're lucky in our group. No one's really a super gearhead. We all have our little things, but no one's has a pedal board of 25 different pedals and hits them at random times. So it helps us develop kind of a communication where we can actually communicate on the instrument as opposed to relying on different things.
All right, so you get to Charlotte. You're playing guitar in college.
Mm-hmm.
How does WaterWorks come together? Is that your first band, or is that a series of? Oh, is it really?
Yeah. That's it right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Our buddy and I were working at work or whatever, and we wanted to jam after work. So we got lucky enough that, hey, we can come to the office after hours and hang out and play music. A little while later, we find out that my boss's husband was a sax player. And we're like, oh, yeah, he should come jam sometime. Kind of joking, didn't know how good he was or whatever.
Right, you never know.
And we were not particularly good. We just kind of like doing it. And sure enough, one night he shows up. And so that's Eric Payne, our sax player. And he showed up and we were playing and we just got blown away. We're like, this guy's a professional musician playing with us idiots, sitting in the office at like 10 o'clock at night, and he is phenomenal.
So why is Eric, was he playing with other groups? Because I know a lot of folks in Charlotte play with like 10 other groups. So
he started and I think kind of co-founded Groove 8, which is a funk group that has been around Charlotte for quite some time.
That's so funny.
Yep.
I know the bass player used to play with them.
Yes.
A friend of mine, his name is Kevin, and Kevin used to play with Groove 8 for a while.
So he probably knows Eric.
That's hysterical.
Yeah. So he kind of started that, and he did that for a while. Had family, had kids, did that whole thing, so it kind of brought him out of the music thing. And then for some reason, the timing worked out that his kids were just about to graduate high school when we started jamming together. So it kind of, he started to find some more freedom in his personal life where he could come and do this thing. So that's how we found Eric. We had a show back in 2016 for that company. I actually didn't sing on it at all except for one song, which was the original. We had, interestingly, our drummer's nephew was the singer at the time. And then in 2017, went to a couple open mics just trying to find anybody who wanted to join a band.
Right.
Found Alec Dwyer, our guitarist and vocalist, at the Comet Grill open mic.
Okay.
Which is a great one. And then went through a rotation of drummers and bassists, and Brian Scott on bass ended up coming around the most and kind of became part of the band that way.
Right.
And then towards the tail end of last year, we were frustrated because we just hadn't found a consistent drummer, which I think is a problem many bands have. It's just kind of a thing. And so we ended up calling the drummer we had at the very first show, Tom Thomas, that we had back in 2016, called him and said, hey, we've got a band. We got a bunch of gigs booked January, February, March, and we need someone consistent who wants to be with me. He's like, perfect timing. My band's slowing down.
Right.
So y'all came along at the right time. And so that's how we found Tom. And this year's been really nice having a stable group. That goes a really long ways.
So you guys have two singers in the group.
Yeah. And Tom will sing up backup vocals. Brian is thrown in on a couple songs, so kind of do a team effort. Eric will rap on occasion and do some verses across things. So,
all right. So what's the songwriting process like for you guys in WaterWorks?
It comes from different avenues. Alec and I have definitely written our own stuff and brought it to the band.
Okay.
That's one way. We have co-written stuff. Alec and I, Eric and I have co-written things. A lot of them just kind of happens from just you're in a rehearsal and next thing you know you're on a jam.
Right.
And you take that and either I'll write words to it, Alec's got something coming out. There's no defined script like, hey, he's the songwriter of everything.
Okay.
But Alec and I definitely keep driving either our songs or like, hey, let's write this together. We've got something here. He's got a piece. I've got a piece. But with the group stuff, it does seem that he does the guitar riffs and licks, which obviously he's much better at. And then I've been writing and putting a lot of the words to the group songs.
Awesome. All right, so we've got a song here that you brought called "Hold Breath."
Yeah.
Is this a co-written song? Is this somebody's song from the group?
This one came back actually before I had met anybody. A buddy of mine, Kieran McGuire from back in Richmond.
Okay.
He and I went on a whitewater rafting trip and came back, and this song just kind of happened. And this is like the first one I presented to the group that was kind of already ready to go. So.
Is that because somebody went underwater at the time, took a spill off the raft?
Yeah, you could say that.
All right, let's take a listen to "Hold Breath." Man, that's a pretty cool tune, Wes. So, all right, here's my question to you. Who's doing the vocals on that track?
That is primarily me with Alec providing support, I think, on the hook.
All right, so here's the neat thing. Your voice is extremely unique. Like, it's not... You don't have one of those contest singing show voices.
Oh, no.
You know, so you've got a different sound. Like, I think the first time I listened to it, I did a double take because you've got this like singing yet at times almost spoken quality to your voice when you're singing. And it's not bad or good. I'm just saying, you know, I kind of enjoyed it. It was different than what you're customarily, you know, used to. You know, somebody who can hit high notes and do all this different stuff. So it's pretty cool. Have you done some vocal lessons, or is this just kind of just your thing that just came out?
It's a combination of all it. I had a music teacher, James Harden, who I went to when I came to Charlotte.
Right.
And he's kind of got me caught up on a lot of the vocal things I need to know.
Sure.
But as you know from earlier, I didn't start really singing until like 24 maybe.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the mix of the, hey, I don't know how to sing, so I'm going to kind of speak this part.
Sure.
But it's a useful thing. I mean, Bob Dylan did it. Eric Clapton kind of had a flatter voice. J.J. Cale did it.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys, it's, as he has always told me, it's, especially for males, it's much more of a character voice as opposed to strictly like quality of like, they're great just at singing.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's something that stands out. It's not the same as, you know, your normal fare of what people sound like when they're singing, which was really nice because I was just thinking today, I was at the gym on the treadmill and I have some Black Sabbath playing and I'm listening to Ozzy Osbourne, you know, in the original Black Sabbath, the Black Sabbath to me, even though I love Ronnie James. And his voice is so unique. So like you could go listen to a whole bunch of 70s bands and things like that, and not as many voices stand out. You know, so then you listen to Ozzy Osbourne, the second you hear his voice, you know who that is. You know, and that's, you know, when I heard your voice, not that you sound like Ozzy, but it's just different.
Yeah.
You know?
I appreciate that. It's helpful to hear that because I've definitely gotten my fair share of you're not really a singer type things. That's just kind of part of it though.
But you know what? You grow into it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
And you'll get more accustomed to it. I didn't start singing until you started at 24. You started younger than I did. I didn't start singing until I was probably in my 30s.
Nice.
You know, and I didn't get comfortable singing until I started until I moved to Charlotte.
Yeah.
And I was kind of forced into it because I'm an elementary music school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to sing with my kids. And then plus singing in a duo with a friend of mine. So like over the last 10 or 12 years, my voice has definitely gotten a lot better and I'm a lot more comfortable hearing myself because I know that's something nobody likes to hear, you know, hear themselves singing. So yeah, man, I'd wear it as a badge of honor that you don't sound like everybody else. I mean, it's just cool stuff.
Thank you.
So tell me more about this song. So what went into this?
Breath. I don't want to define what it means to anybody else, but we kind of went on a whitewater rafting trip, and it was just a phenomenal day. Absolutely gorgeous out, like it is now, or whatever. Not too hot, just hanging out on the river kayaking. And he and I had been playing guitar since I picked it up. He had been playing since high school,
right?
And he had kind of the core structure of the chords and everything. He kind of had pieces, and I said, "Hey, let's do this." Wrote a bunch of words to it. Let's do this. And so I kind of took what he had already prepped and just kind of put all the pieces together and
nice.
Immediately wrote words to it. And it's kind of become one of our catchier songs at shows. So it's a fun one to play. We know we can kind of lean on it if we're in a situation like, hey, let's grab the crowd a little bit more. Let's play Hold Breath. So
yeah, sometimes when you're writing a song where you have all these parts, you don't see the puzzle, you know, and maybe it takes somebody like yourself to come in and go, oh yeah, that's not going to work here. That'll work better as this part, and that'll work better as this part. And you're like, oh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking this. Pretty cool, man. All right, so now we have another song called Shimmer. Different quality. We've talked about it a little bit. We'll talk about it more after, you know, we play the song. But you were very concerned about the quality of the song.
Yeah.
So, all right, so here's Shimmer.
And she grabs your mind and pulls you to a place with no time. Your friends, oh, they've left you far behind, cutting loose your long-held ties. She's waiting for you there. No seat to sit, it's your road to bear. And there's no time to fear the spotlight as you find yourself in the comfort of a dogfight. And she carries you a world away, brightens your fears with each passing day. And while you wonder when it's time to go home, with a wave of a hand, she lets you know. She said, come on down, boy, enjoy the show. Come on down, boy, enjoy the show.
I like it, Wes. I like it.
It's from a live recording we did at Thomas Street Tavern our first year.
Okay.
We knew we didn't have anything we could really send venues to book.
Right.
We're kind of just doing it with whatever we had handy. So we wanted to get kind of a live recording of a snapshot of where we're at.
Okay.
And that is about as fresh as it gets. So that's my voice 2 years ago. Hopefully it's gotten a bit better then too. But that it was fun recording a live show because that's really where we come out. Like we like recording in a studio as much as we do, which is very rare. But the live shows are kind of where we really like pushing things.
Do you guys do a lot of improvisation during the live shows, or do you pretty much stick to the script of the song?
Yeah, there's a script, there's a structure, but we definitely like looking for new ways of making a song fresh. Whether it's transitioning between two songs or open ending like in the middle of a song or letting Eric come in on rap. There's no, we don't like sticking to just this is how the song goes, 4-minute clip right here, 4 bars. It still has a structure to it, but I think everyone knows when you go up there that this has a structure to it, but if someone's feeling it, back off. That's it. Let's go with that. See where it takes us.
Pretty cool.
So it puts us in things we didn't expect. If we find ourselves in situations we might not know how to get out of sometimes musically, but that's half the fun. So.
All right. So as a band putting together original music, what's the Charlotte music scene like for you guys in WaterWorks?
It's been fun to be a part of the growing, what seems to me be growing. I've been here 5 years, and in the last 3, I've been really involved in the music scene. And to see what's happening, we're a band, but with the brewery scene that's blown up, you kind of have to adapt, and you can be a duo or solo act or a trio with like a cajon. But there's still the big band venues. I mean, we love playing at the Milestone. That's we always have a blast going there. We play at Thomas Street. We played at the Rabbit Hole. So there's still the avenue for bands to be a 5-piece. It's easier for us to play more often as a duo or a trio, and we prefer to play more often as opposed to kind of sitting and waiting for the next full band gig. Right,
and then it's just tough to make a decent amount of money.
Yeah,
as a full band.
Yeah, that's a lot of it because you can play 4 nights a week as a duo or a trio, different places, and you don't overplay your market. But as a band, in order to make a lot of money, you got to play a show once a month and have a bunch of people come out that night, but you can't do that every week. People just aren't going to do it.
Right.
So, and that's where we're starting to look to growing a little bit and where we start playing outside of Charlotte, which would probably be the cusp of what we're looking at next year.
Right.
We've kind of now established ourselves here as, hey, we can play in Charlotte. So starting to eyeball little places.
Have you guys teamed up with any of or shared a bill with any of the other local Charlotte bands?
Yeah. There's a few that we've played alongside. It originally was the Kevin Reed band, but Red Dress Amy is one. They're a blues rock group. They're actually just outside here near Concord.
Okay.
And we've crossed paths with a group called Akita a bunch of times.
Yeah. Patrick was on the first year of my podcast.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So Patrick, he was one of the original drummers of WaterWorks.
Okay.
We way back in 2017, he played with us for like 5 or 6 shows before he moved on and said, I kind of really want to do a project that Akita became.
He is all about doing his funk stuff.
Yep.
He loves it, man.
So I guess we weren't quite funky enough for him, but we definitely have some of that in us. But yeah, with Charlie's, with Akita's played with us a couple times.
Okay.
So we crossed paths with a good bit of them. And then Lisa DeNovo, who runs a lot of the open mics. I just
had Lisa on last month.
Yep. Yeah. So she runs a lot of the open mics and has been phenomenal for the Charlotte music community.
Yeah.
So we definitely crossed paths with her doing what she does a lot.
All right. So you've gotten to know several of the folks who are active in the local music scene here in Charlotte.
Yeah. It's the open mic community has been a huge part of like the band in general. We would go to Legion on Monday nights. We'd hit Smokey Joe's on Tuesday, go to Comet Grill or Jack Beagle's on Wednesday, and then Crown Station on Thursday.
Right.
And just doing that, you end up meeting the Willie Douglas Band is another one that we cross paths with a lot. They've been in Charlotte for a while. and they do very similar stuff to us.
Very cool. All right, so this podcast, as we're talking, I'm going to try to get this out in October for us.
Okay.
But you were talking about WaterWorks going in and recording an EP.
Yep.
So what do you guys have in the works, as it were, for WaterWorks coming up? What's coming up?
The name does have its own catch to it. So originally we were trying to do November, December recording, as you heard from the Shimmer audio. Isn't quite pristine.
Well, it's a live recording, man.
It is a live recording, but we want to get something we can put out on Spotify and kind of be able to share to everybody, have CDs to hand out or whatever. But originally we were going to do November, December recording. But we realized that everyone plays in November and December, Christmas gigs and New Year's gigs. And so it'd be really tough to put a lot of our focus on making sure we're ready for it.
Yeah.
And then that we know what we want out of it. So we've bumped it probably to a January recording with like a March, April release, along with the other half of the musicians in the world who release in the springtime. So we'll put our name out there and hopefully it turns out. We've looked at a couple different places. We know the guys in Akita recorded at Old House Studios.
Okay.
With Dan Hood and Chris, can't remember his last name. And then we're thinking of Boo English's studio. Something Root. I can't quite remember what it is.
I've heard. I haven't. Yeah.
Yeah, something Tree. I can't quite remember what it is. But yeah, we're thinking of recording with Boo English because Alec has recorded with him before.
Very cool.
So we're trying to see what fits us best for an EP. This is not going to be an album. We've got 5 songs, I think, that we know we want to put out.
Right.
Luckily, we have 12 or 13 originals to choose from.
Right.
But we've got a good idea what the 5 strongest ones are.
I mean, it all. I'm not really sure, but I mean, I think when you're a new band coming out, I mean, is putting out an album, right away, is that the format, and is it even still a viable format for young artists coming up? And by young, I don't even just mean age. I mean people just cutting their teeth and stuff.
Yeah, especially with the Spotify. Internet things. People, a single seems to stick. It's weird because it's almost going back to when it was in like the 50s, where you had the 45s and like I lived back then, but you had the 45s and it was just a single that went out, and then once you had enough of those, then they made a full LP or a long play, like what it actually means, or an extended play.
Right.
And so those were the EP and the LP were acronyms for something bigger, obviously, than just a single. So we want to have an EP because we want to give people the option, I think. But we'll definitely be releasing a single, I think, is the right idea, ahead of the EP. So at least we have something out there.
It's just to have a product.
Yeah.
There's something to be said to be like, hey, here's my band's CD.
Yeah.
Even if it's just an EP with several songs on it. I mean, it's just as you go to a show, somebody likes your stuff. Hey, yeah, this is even. And the one thing I do like about the EP format is you don't have to sell it for $10, $15.
Right.
It's like, hey, there's 5 songs. Here's the EP. It's $3 or $4 or $5.
Yep.
Somebody can whip that out of their wallet a lot easier than, oh, it's 10. Oh, it's 12.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to spend that much. If it was only a couple, and you're like, oh, take it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Sold.
It's just a CD, and proof of concept with an EP goes a long way before you can have an album. I think a lot of people rush the process a little bit,
right?
At least just what I've watched. And just to say, oh, we've got an album out. It's like, well, back when they did years of touring before they put an album out, and that's how that quality came out. And you all of a sudden heard that, like, oh my gosh, that's so good.
Yeah.
It's because they've been doing it for 10 years already.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure the process happens naturally, and it feels like the EP is the right step for us next.
Yeah, and I think there's also a lot of things where people get caught up recording perfection.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, I don't know. I think it's, people don't look at, I look back at all the classic albums that I listen to, and bands sometimes put out 2 albums a year. Like Kiss at times, they will put out, 2 albums in a year, or Black Sabbath, I was talking about earlier because I'm a nut with my Sabs, but their first album, I think they recorded it in like a day or over a couple 2 days, and it was done. Jeez. And then they just put it out. But you're like, oh, it wasn't perfect. So what?
It's a timestamp.
They put it out. If the songs are good, it's going to come out.
Yeah.
I think it's going to show through. You can record the most perfect album, and the songs aren't good, so nobody cares.
Yeah.
At least in my head.
Yeah. No, I mean, my favorite album is Exile on Main Street, and that was recorded essentially in the back of a van. I mean, I think Keith Richards just brought like a tape recorder and just set it in random places around the houses, and that was it. Now they overdubbed vocals at the end, but still, I mean, the essential base of that album is a handheld recorder.
Yeah, and I love those old recordings from the late 60s and 70s where you actually hear conversations at the end of the at the end of the song, or at the beginning of the song, and they just leave it on.
Yep.
And you're like, that's cool. It gives it, I don't know, they show a more human side to it.
Yeah.
Rather than like, oh, it's this perfect piece of music and it's shiny and beautiful. I'm like, I like imperfections.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes it the rawness to it. I mean, that's kind of I guess why I like the Stones anyways, is that gritty rawness to it. And so it brings out the human quality, like you said.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, so what's coming up for you guys? Do you have some plans besides going into the studio to do some recording in the new year?
Yeah, we've got gigs mostly. That's just kind of what we do. So we've got a gig, and booking basically. We're trying to get more on the festival scene for 2020. I think is what we're aiming for.
Okay.
We played Speed Street this year, which is a really cool experience. And we were going to play Taste of Charlotte, but it got kind of rained out.
Yeah.
But that's we want to get more involved in the festival scene and be able to kind of move around the state a little bit and to like Asheville, Raleigh, Greensboro, Chapel Hill, Greenville, South Carolina. We'll see how far we really extend, but I think that's kind of what's on the horizon for us.
So if we want to get in touch with the fellows from WaterWorks, how do we do that?
Yeah, so check out the website at waterworksband.com.
Okay.
Or you can email us at waterworks37@gmail.com.
Okay.
I think I need to get a new email and actually take out those numbers, but for now they'll work.
All right, that sounds great. Well, Wes, thanks for stopping by today. We look forward to checking you guys out in 2020.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is a cool experience.
Thank you, man. Have a great day. And that will bring episode 25 of the Queen City Music Podcast to a close. If you are a musician or otherwise involved in the music scene here in our fair city and would like to be a guest on the QCMP, reach out to me at qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com. If you can, leave a review of the QCMP on iTunes, or please feel free to drop me a line and let me know what you think of the podcast. Also, stop by our local partners, Records on the Wall at rexonthewall.com and New Sound at newsoundonline.com. Until next month, get out there and support your local music scene. Bye.